Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Zelensky, because during the previous weekend he made lots of very interesting statements. First, let's talk that Zelensky, according to him, Russia has used around 900 aerial bombs against Ukraine just during the previous week. This was stated to the Kiev Independent. So most likely this information is correct, because indeed the Russians are using the bombs in the significant numbers. Furthermore, he added additional very interesting story that according to him, Korea is going to send soldiers and forces on the territory of Ukraine. So currently the allies between Korea and Russia is not just the allies about weapon, it's also the allies about troopers on the ground. Now let's talk about another very important information that is coming from the Transnistria region. According to information we have, during the previous night, the Russians attacked the airfield in the vicinity of the village by the name of Limanskaya. This is very important airfield where the Ukrainians are producing drones and that Ukrainians are using to attack the territory of Crimea. But some sources are saying that most likely the Russians attacked this airfield because of possible provocation on the territory of Transnistria. I'll remind you that just a few days ago we got reports that there are rumors between Ukrainian soldiers on the ground that Ukraine is planning some provocation on the territory of this small region of Moldova. Probably the Ukrainians will try to use the specific situation on the ground and around this small region in the very near future if everything goes so bad on the territory of the special military operation. Now let's move to the situation on the ground. And during the previous 24 hours, according to information we have, the Ukrainians were forced to fall back from the territory between Novodmytrivka and Zolotaya Niva. So this is the changes on the ground according to different mappers, including pro-Ukrainian ones. And if we summarize everything during the previous few days, we have a significant number of changes on the ground. As you can see, the Russians managed to take under control the village of Livadne. This information we received yesterday, and today the Russians improved their positions between Zolotaya Niva and Novodonetsk. So everything tells us that the Russians currently are moving something like this, trying to take the town of Velika Novosilovka in pincers. So obviously sooner or later this is going to happen, but maybe this already is happening. Now let's move further. Let's talk about Bogoyavlenka. During the previous 24 hours, according to different mappers, the Russians managed to improve their positions. The Russians took under control the fields and the fortifications between the village of Bogoyavlenka and the city of Ugledar, and most likely these facilities and this stronghold were also captured by the Russians. This information was provided us by pro-Ukrainian mappers. As for Katerinovka, we have some changes on the ground, and the changes were confirmed by video. In this video we can see the attempt from the Russian side to attack the village of Katerinovka from the southeast, but that attack was repelled by pro-Ukrainian sources. There are a lot of episodes in this video. One of the episodes was geolocated exactly in this point, how Ukrainian FPV drone was attacking the Russian forces. Based on this video we have adjusted the map, and currently this is 100% sure confirmation that the Russians entered the southeastern part of the settlement. Now let's move further. And let's talk about the Kurakhove-Pokrovsk direction, and the most important updates are coming from the line between Tsukurin and Selydove. Today, pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed that the Russians currently control around 90% of the settlement. There are still few blocks in the most western part, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, and in the southern part. I'll remind you that just yesterday, the Russians published the video of how they were raising the flags in the western part of the settlement. They raised 2 flags, and based on this video, we have adjusted the map. Every single mapper have adjusted the maps, and furthermore, most likely pro-Ukrainian sources also adjusted the maps in Russian favor based on this video with Russian flags. As for Selydove, we continue receiving very interesting updates around the coal mine of Karachena and the telecom of it. And today, as you can see, we have additional changes on the ground in Russian favor. So this is the situation on the 13th of October. This is the situation on the 14th of October. These adjustments on map were made based on the video that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and in this video we can see the Ukrainians that were located somewhere in this area, and from these buildings they were filming the burned and destroyed Russian vehicles right on the base of the coal mine and the mine of Karachena. So this is the situation. Some tank was destroyed. Maybe the Russians were trying to break through the Ukrainian defense belt and to answer the northern part of the settlement. Maybe the Russians were rotating forces somewhere in this area and the tank was destroyed. Anyway, based on this video we can make a conclusion that everything that is located behind this destroyed tank is under complete Russian control. We're talking about these facilities and the northern part of the Toretsk. So we see that this direction is very dynamic, because since the 10th of October we received a significant number of geolocations and adjustments on map. For example, this is the situation on the 8th of October, this is on the 9th, this is on the 10th of October. The Russians took under control the most northwestern part of Mikhailovka. The next day the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation confirmed Russian control over the settlement. Later we got report that the Russians managed to answer the mine of Karachenka in the northeastern direction, and Ukrainians were trying to counterattack the Russians, and we have adjusted the map in Ukrainian favor also based on this video. The next day, on the 12th of October, we haven't received anything, but on the 13th of October we got additional changes on the ground in the northern part of Selydove and in the central part of Selydove, including the mine of Karachenka. In this video I'll remind you the Russians were attacking the temporary deployment point of the Ukrainian forces with a missile, and so this is obviously 100% sure evidence of Ukrainian control, and today we got additional progress on the ground in the northern part. So currently there are very heavy clashes, very close combat between the Ukrainians and the Russians, and this is the most important, the vital and decisive battle for the city. We've been discussing this for a very long period of time in the past, that who controls the mine of Karachenka and the Toretsk controls the Selydove. So the Russians just trying to do this. Now let's move further. The Russians continue moving in the western direction from the town of Novodmytrivka, and during the previous 24 hours the Russians managed to improve their positions, and we have geolocation that confirms this. In this video we can see Russian BMP and some motorcycle that were storming Ukrainian positions, just one vehicle and one motorcycle. The Ukrainians were trying to bomb and attack the Russians with FPV drones, with artillery, with everything they have. In this moment we can see how the Russians were attacking Ukrainian positions along the tree line. The Russians managed to break through the Ukrainian defense belt and to land in the village of Lysovka, where the Russians began clearing operation. So the video took place, the Russian vehicle, it's better to say like this, were moving something like this, and the Russians entered this part and landed in this area. So based on this video we have adjusted this part of fields and the fortifications between Novodmytrivka and Dachinsk itself. So this is the progress on the ground according to this video. The Russians are moving further. The Russians began artillery preparation in the direction of Mirnograd. So in this video we can see the accurate strike of Krasnopol artillery system. With the Krasnopol round. As a result of attack, the temporary deployment point was destroyed. Based on this video we can make a conclusion that the Russians are trying to cut everything that located below this red line. Now let's move further. There are very heavy clashes in the Toretsk agglomeration. The final battles, the final clashes. We have video from the Toretsk Vuhilya mine and the Toretsk. In this video we can see how Ukrainians were filming the destructions around this territory. The Russians, there are currently storm process, offensive operation exactly on this industrial complex, and the most important that the Russians, since the beginning of the battle for the Toretsk agglomeration, start publishing the videos of how they were bombing and attacking with the Tolstyi tower systems, the mine of Toretsk and the Toretsk of Toretsk itself. So this is already artillery preparation before full-scale offensive in this direction as well. This is the last stronghold on the way to the Konstantinovka. So there are just two strongholds left, this mine and the landfill and this one, and the Russians began clearing this one, the most northern one, which is the final one. Now let's talk about the Chasiv Yar direction. During the previous 24 hours we have additional changes on the ground. First of all, the Russians managed to cross the Seversky Donetsk river in many places from the north to the south. This information was confirmed either both by different mappers and by geolocation video that was published by the Russian sources. In this video, we can see the special forces Akhmat that were storming Ukrainian positions on the Ukrainian side of the Seversky Donetsk-Donbass Canal. The Russians are moving, rotating, improving their positions, bringing additional forces, supply for long-term positions, and so on. And all these events were taking place exactly in this area. And based on this video, we have adjusted the map in Russian favor. This territory used to be under complete Ukraine control, but now this territory is under complete Russian control. And the most important, according to geolocation, we see that the Russians have entered this dense network of the fortifications. The same story in the northern part. The Russians managed to improve their positions in the vicinity of Grigorovka, but as for this progress, this information was confirmed just by pro-Ukrainian mappers. As for starting from Sever, still the northern Kupiansk direction, we haven't received anything, just the sources reported about a very interesting article was published by the Russian side, and the Russians are saying that currently in this area, the Russians managed to encircle 1 battalion of 66 mechanized brigade. I'll remind you that according to most of the mappers, this territory was already colored in Russian favor. We are talking about neutral mappers, pro-Russian mappers, but starting today we get reports that there are still Ukrainians of 66 mechanized brigade and they can't escape the encirclement and they're completely blocked. Maybe they can evacuate or escape just with a small group of forces, but the Russians control the situation and FPV drone every time they see some movement, any movement. Now let's move further to the Kursk direction. According to information we have, the Russians managed to restore control over this part of Kurakhove area. We got this information yesterday from pro-Ukrainian mappers. Today we start receiving first FPV drone attacks already on the Ukrainian side to the south of Novodmytrivka, which is very important. So we got the first geolocations of Russian attack on the territory of Ukraine, at least in this direction. As for the original Sudzha area, we have additional changes on the ground. Today, the sources reported that the Russians managed to take under control the village of Tolstyi, and also the Russians published the video of how they were clearing and attacking the settlement. So now we have first proofs of Russian progress and additional cauldron on the vicinity of the village of Lyubimovka. Once again, the sources confirm that there are still up to 1 battalion of Ukrainian forces that stuck in this area without any possibilities to escape the encirclement. So this is the progress on the ground just in one day. Yesterday, the Russians managed to take under complete control Zelený Shlях and to ambush and to capture the significant number of FPV drone operators, and the Russians entered the village of Lyubimovka from the north, and today we got report that the Russians managed to secure the village of Tolstyi. So let's wait for additional updates, but obviously no chances for this battalion to evacuate and to escape. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.